welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. We got a packed show lined up for you guys today. Of course, we saw Luka Dončić return to Dallas last night for the first time since the trade to the Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to look into everything about that, look into the how the Lakers stand from there. They clinched the 3 seed in the Western Conference, and we're going to get into everything about that. From there, we're going to look at the Los Angeles Clippers, the other team in Los Angeles. They won their 6th straight win, and they've played phenomenally for the last week, 2 weeks or so. 8-2 in their last 10. We're going to get into everything about them. They are dark horses in the Western Conference at the moment, so they have everything on the line, and we're gonna look into everything about them. From there, we're gonna take a look at the San Antonio Spurs taking down the Golden State Warriors. Crucial loss for the Golden State Warriors in that one. The Spurs playing spoiler for them. That was an unbelievable game. Harrison Barnes with a last-second game winner to lift the Spurs over the Warriors. So we're gonna get into everything about that. From there as well, we're going to take a look at the Denver Nuggets in the first game since the Mike Malone firing. We're going to take a look at how they played. Nikola Jokic, Christian Braun finishing with 25 points. Jokic with a 21-point triple-double. Michael Porter Jr. with 21 points. All across the board, offense was very well balanced, very well, just very well overall. So we're going to take a look at the Denver Nuggets after that win over the Kings last night. And to close out the show, we're going to give a quick update on the Western Conference playoffs, how everything's shaping out, how everybody's seeding with 4 days to go in the regular season. And we're going to take a look at all of that. But, of course, before I get started, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask to use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for your questions. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it. It also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But, getting straight into it here, Luka Dončić returning to Dallas for the first time since being traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. Very emotional return from him from the get-go. We all saw it across the board. ESPN had it from the tribute video. Luka was very emotional pre-game. You could see him with a towel over his face, his eyes wet, tears dripping down his face. It was just emotional overall, and we saw from early on that not only was Luka was himself, but Luka pretty much he just needs time he's still proving that he still just needs time to grow into the Lakers offense. He has done well for the last 2 months or so, but we also saw early on that he was having a tough time struggling with that aspect. But in this game, of course, Luka finishing with 31 points in the first half, 45 points overall. Absolute masterclass from him in the win over the Dallas Mavericks in 112-97. But yeah, Lakers started the game pretty hot. Both teams were going back and forth. Lakers shooting pretty well from 3-point range. Luka doing very well from the opening tip, and from there it was just a Luka show takeover. It was until the third quarter the Lakers started. The third quarter has been an issue for the Lakers all year long. This time, the Dallas Mavericks going on a 13-0 run to close that third quarter. It was just their defense has been very porous all season long, and their offense has been very, I don't know why it's been this way. It's just for some reason it's that third quarter. We remember the old days with the Golden State Warriors. Good teams usually perform very well in the third quarter. That's what teams really specify. Coming out of the second half, taking control of the momentum, maximizing their opportunities on the offensive glass. That's where they look for to make their presence known in that third quarter. And for some reason, it's been an issue all season long with the Los Angeles Lakers. And it showed itself again last night. But regardless, the Lakers getting the win. On the other side, Anthony Davis finishing with 13 points, 11 rebounds. And yeah, overall, it was the biggest aspect of this game that I would say there was a turnover differential really, 19 turnovers for the Mavericks to the 9 for the Los Angeles Lakers. And yeah, when you turn the ball over and on that consistency, it's tough to win games overall, and it proved itself last night, to say the least. But yeah, the Lakers clinching the 3 seed with their win over the Mavericks as well, not only solidifying their spot in the playoffs, but solidifying exactly where they want to be before the playoffs, trying to stay away pretty much from the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Oklahoma City Thunder being the best team with over 60 wins this season, the best record in the NBA. They've just been extremely formidable, and nobody really wants any parts of Oklahoma City. Everybody from 3 through 6 or 3 through 5 between the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Warriors have been really looking for that 3 seed for about the last 2 weeks or so. And last night was another crucial piece in the final touches for the Lakers, cementing themselves in that spot. But nonetheless, on the other side, the Dallas Mavericks solidifying their spot in the play-in tournament officially, with the Suns officially being eliminated from playoff contention last night. They're locked into either the 9 or 10 seed, and with home court advantage really going to play a difference in the play-in tournament this year. This year it's either going to be Sacramento versus Dallas, but I personally believe that home field advantage home court is going to really play a crucial role in this series, in that game, in that play-in tournament game, and going to make all the difference overall. But yeah, it was a phenomenal performance from Luka Dončić. Like I said, extremely emotional. You could see it stricken across his face, from the tribute video to seeing his teammates pregame, postgame, the fans coming out. He wanted to play for them. But he also wanted to deliver a message to Nico Harrison. Nico Harrison, the GM for the Dallas Mavericks, the man that traded Luka Dončić to the Los Angeles Lakers, the man that had the final decision on it. He was sending a message absolutely to Nico Harrison last night, and that was the biggest thing that I took away from the game. But yeah, overall it was a phenomenal performance, and we're going to be looking at the Los Angeles Lakers in the playoffs coming up very soon. Who will they play? I'll get into who they'll play later on in the show when we take a look at the entire Western Conference. But at the moment, this is where we sit. A little bit of a not exciting, but something that's improving little by little with this team is their defensive tenacity. It seems that they're starting to flip that switch as the playoffs are quickly approaching. LeBron starting to flip that switch. Jackson Hayes being a presence on the interior with Rui Hachimura. Jared Vanderbilt coming off the bench, being able to plug him in and out of the starting lineup if you need an extra defensive guy with him. If you need more offense, take a Rui Hachimura or a Austin Reeves. It's just overall, the bench has been playing much better. Dorian Finney-Smith having 12 points as well in this game. The Lakers are just starting to come together overall. That's what it feels like. That's what it's seeming like every game that goes by. Lakers starting to piece it together, and with that, it's just really it's very hopeful for them as they look for a deep playoff run in a gauntlet of a Western Conference. But I'm going to take a short break. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at the the Los Angeles Clippers, excuse me. We're going to look at them, how they've been performing these last 6 games on a 6-game winning streak at the moment. Kawhi Leonard, since being healthy, has played phenomenal. James Harden playing phenomenal all season long. Zubac is being a presence on the interior. Overall, we're going to take a look at the Clippers and how they can be dark horses in the Western Conference. I'm going to take a short break, and when I come back, we're going to take a look at all of that. Be right back.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right back into it, in this segment, we're going to take a look at the Los Angeles Clippers. They took down the Houston Rockets last night, continuing to climb the ranks of the Western Conference, currently sitting at the 5 seed with a 6-game winning streak. They've been arguably the hottest team in the Western Conference over the last 2 weeks, with a little bit of a fall off from the Golden State Warriors, a little bit of a fall off from the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Clippers have really solidified that spot as the hottest team, or solidified that title as the hottest team in the Western Conference at the moment. But before I get any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for your questions. This puts your questions to the top of the list so that I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. And again, all your questions and comments are greatly appreciated. Knowing your input helps us build our shows, and overall, you guys play a vital role in what we do here at the Sports Network. So, I just want to say thank you as always. But getting right back into it, the Los Angeles Clippers, they've played phenomenally these last 2 weeks or so, like I said, to start out the segment. Last night was another showing of that. James Harden pulling in 35 points to lead the team. Kawhi Leonard on a tear since he's been healthy, putting in 22 points. Ivica Zubac being a presence in the paint with 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. It's not a normal thing we see from Ivica Zubac with 10 assists last night. But he's been a presence all year long in the interior, and all credit to him. All credit to Ty Lue, Hall of Fame head coach Ty Lue, who's really schemed up this offense all year round, scheming up, resurrecting James Harden's career, really resurrecting James Harden's career from the times he was in Brooklyn to the times he was in Houston. We haven't really seen James Harden perform like this or long-term overall since he was in Houston. We saw some flashes of it in Brooklyn, but it was never consistent. He was injured, or in Brooklyn, it was just playing ring around the rosy, as I'd call it, with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. Just 3 ball-dominant offensive presences. And it was just overall, each player could go off any given night, and that's how it was over there in Brooklyn. But here in LA, he's really found a home. Like I said last night, with 35 points, he played phenomenally. Over his last 10 games, he's averaging 27 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. Something we haven't seen him average in, like I said, from back in the day when he was playing with the Rockets during that MVP season. But the biggest crucial factor, I'd say, for the Clippers that have made them the hottest team in the Western Conference is the health of Kawhi Leonard. Since being back, he's been playing phenomenally. His defensive presence was felt last night, has been felt for the last month or so since he's been back. Playing against the Rockets with Jalen Green as their number one, not scoring, but offensive threat. Jalen Green only having 5 points last night over 15 minutes. Kawhi Leonard absolutely had a lot to do with that. I'm not sure 100% why he only played 15 minutes in that game, but at the same time, the Houston Rockets have solidified themselves at the 2 seed and really can just kind of coast over these last 4 days. They don't really have to worry as much as these other teams from 3 through 8 in the Western Conference that are fighting for their playoff seeds. But going back to the Clippers, like I said, 8-2 in their last 10, holding the 5 seed at the moment. I'm gonna get a little bit. I'll dive deeper into the playoff picture in a little bit, but they've played phenomenally all year. They deserve all the credit in the world for how they've played offensively, defensively, just overall. Since moving to a new stadium or a new arena in LA, they've played. They're 30-11 at home, one of the best records in the Western Conference. But Kawhi deserves all the credit for this, I think. Personally, I think, for their performance of the LA Clippers. That's just my take on it. I think with him healthy, he can still perform as a top 5 player in the NBA. He's proved that time and time again. We saw it. We haven't seen it for the last few years because he's been consistently hurt come playoff time. But in the last time we saw him in 2020, when he played against the Nuggets, when he lost to the Nuggets in 7 games, Kawhi was still a force in that series. And it's just been unfortunate that he hasn't been healthy since then. But yeah, him combined with James Harden, like I said, James Harden really resurrecting his career in Los Angeles. Ty Lue deserves all the credit in the world for scheming him into that offense, giving him the right place, putting him in the right position to be successful. We saw Ty Lue do it with LeBron James. He's coached with the best players in the world, and he knows how to press the right buttons, how to get people in the right position to succeed. And he's doing that again this year with James Harden. Clippers really have been a dark horse this season. Nobody really expected too much from them, partially because we haven't really expected a lot from Kawhi Leonard over these last few years with his injury history, with his inability to be healthy. But the Clippers are a force to be reckoned with when healthy. Their record's showing it right now. They're proving it, and they're getting hot at the right time. And if the playoffs started today, they would be playing against the Denver Nuggets. And I would pick the Clippers really in that series. I know Jokic would dominate on the offensive glass, absolutely. But how can you stop the offensive onslaught of James Harden and Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell and Ivica Zubac? They might not be the deepest team, but if they can get that starting lineup going, if they can get hot, if they can get James Harden and Kawhi Leonard firing on all cylinders like they have these last 6 games, like they have this last month or so, I personally, in the Western Conference, I would want nothing to do with the Clippers. I personally think they're creeping up. Every game that goes by, they're scratching the surface of being the most dangerous team in the Western Conference every game that goes by. So, overall, that's just the state of the Clippers at the moment. They finished off the season against the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. That Warriors game is going to be crucial because I'll get into it a little bit later, but at the moment, the Clippers, Warriors, Nuggets, and Grizzlies are all tied at 47 and 32 records, or where it was. The Warriors are now 47 and 33. We'll take a look at that in the next segment, but overall, the Clippers have been playing phenomenally this last month and a half, and they're going to be extremely formidable in 2 weeks or so when these NBA playoffs kick off. But I'm going to take another short break. When I come back, we're going to take a look at the Golden State Warriors, the San Antonio Spurs spoiling the Golden State Warriors at home last night in what absolutely was a crucial loss for the Golden State Warriors. Like I mentioned, tied with three other teams in the Western Conference at the moment, fighting for a playoff seed, fighting to make it out of the play-in tournament. At the moment, they're sitting in the 7 seed. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. When we come back, we're going to take a look at everything about that, as well as a little bit about the Spurs. I know we haven't talked about too much this season since Victor Wembanyama was announced as out indefinitely for the rest of the season with blood clots. We're going to take a look at them, what they might be looking for in the offseason, and possibly in the draft as well. We're going to take a look at everything about San Antonio Spurs when I come back. I'll be right back, guys.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right back into it. In this segment, we're going to take a look at the Golden State Warriors falling to the San Antonio Spurs last night in what was honestly one of the best finishes I've seen all season long. Harrison Barnes with a game-winning three-pointer to lift the Spurs over the Warriors in spectacular fashion. Barnes finishing with 20 points, 6 of 9 from three-point range. He was contributing all night long from the offensive end. On top of that, they had Stephen Castle with 21 points, Keldon Johnson with 21 points. Overall, just spreading the offense around very well. Everyone pretty much getting a bite of the apple, as I like to call it. And just great unity from this team, unselfish, and just playing great basketball down the stretch with a couple games left in the regular season. But this is less, before I get deeper into the Spurs side of things, I kind of want to take a look at the Warriors first. This was a crucial loss for the Warriors, I'd say. With 3 games left to go in the season, in a tied situation in the Western Conference with 3 other teams in the Memphis Grizzlies, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Denver Nuggets, this was a crucial loss. This could be the deciding factor in where the Golden State Warriors end up in the Western Conference in terms of seeding, where they seed up. If they end up in the play-in tournament, this could be a major reason why they end up there. But in this one, Steph Curry doing the best he can with 30 points. Jimmy Butler having his best offensive performance, I'd say, since joining the Golden State Warriors, finishing with 28 points. He's been kind of quiet all season long so far. We know Jimmy Butler really gets his title, gets he pays his worth really comes in the playoffs with the title playoff Jimmy. And we've been waiting for that for the last 2 years or so. Last year we didn't see it because he was injured with the Miami Heat. But this year, this is why the Warriors brought him in, why the Warriors wanted him, why the Warriors wanted another piece to bring in with Steph Curry, to relieve some of the load from Steph Curry. They brought Jimmy Butler in for that reason, especially come playoff time. And he's starting to turn it on with the season coming to a close slowly but surely. Like I said last night with 28 points. Another player that's been playing pretty well for them, but kind of had a little bit of a slow night last night was Brandon Podziemski. Brandon Podziemski deserves all the credit in the world. These last 2 weeks or so, playing phenomenally against the Lakers, against the Rockets, he's against the Nuggets. He's been playing phenomenally, averaging between 15 to 20 points over the last 6 games or so. But last night, only having 7 points, struggling a little bit from 3-point range, not having his best shooting day. It wasn't the best performance from him. And I'd personally say that was the biggest reason why the Warriors fell in this one. Of course, Steph and Jimmy Butler continuing to do the best they can, but it was the Spurs that ended up pulling this game out. Getting back to the Spurs side of things, it's been unfortunate for them. They have a good roster, I'd say, with De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama, veteran in Chris Paul. They're still a great team. However, the biggest thing with them this season has been their injuries. Wembanyama out indefinitely with blood clots. De'Aaron Fox has been announced out indefinitely, I believe with an ankle injury. Yeah, De'Aaron Fox he's a phenomenal talent with a mid-season trade from the Sacramento Kings around the same time that Jimmy Butler was traded. Overall, he's been phenomenal. He didn't get enough of a chance this season to really prove his worth. While he was playing, he played well, do not get me wrong. But his season was absolutely cut short with the San Antonio Spurs. And it's a little bit of a bittersweet thing, I'd say. It was a little bit of an opportunity to kind of revamp this roster come the offseason, an opportunity to revamp their offense with a high draft pick in this year's draft. There have been rumors that Cooper Flag could end up in San Antonio in the NBA draft this season. If that happens, the NBA could be, I'm going to watch my language, but the NBA could be in a tough spot. If the San Antonio Spurs can couple Cooper Flag with Victor Wembanyama, the Western Conference is in a world of trouble. Not only would it take a little bit of the pressure on the offensive glass from Wembanyama, but it would also give another scoring threat for the San Antonio Spurs with Cooper Flag. Cooper Flag has been proving his worth with the Duke Blue Devils all season long. Arguably the top pick in the NBA, the upcoming NBA draft. On the offensive end, on the defensive end, facilitating the offense. We saw it in the Final Four and the Elite Eight matchups for the Duke Blue Devils. And he's overall just he's a freshman at the moment as well. He has NBA. We've seen him play against NBA players since he was about 15 years or so. Now he's 19, 20 years old. He's going to be a phenomenal talent in the NBA, and there's so much upside to him. He has so much potential, putting him as the top prospect in this year's NBA draft, I'd say. But overall, like I said, this game overall is more about the Golden State Warriors, I'd say, than the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs long eliminated from this year's NBA playoffs. Like I said, with the injuries to Wembanyama, to De'Aaron Fox, it's been really hard for them to kind of come back from those. Steven Castle's done phenomenally for them, a rookie out of UConn. He's arguably the favorite to win the Rookie of the Year awards this season, and he's played phenomenally all year long. He hasn't been starting as much, but he comes off the bench and he's been playing phenomenally all year long. But yeah, him with Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, De'Aaron Fox has not played this season, but they have a very young core of guys, and coached under Greg Popovich. Unfortunately, he's been out this season, but overall, when Greg Popovich comes back, the Spurs could be extremely formidable next season. And additionally, one last thing, two things. First, I think they're gonna have a off-season acquisition in this summer. They're gonna get some. I don't know exactly who they're gonna get. They should go after a player like a Zach LaVine, or even a Josh Hart, maybe trading for a Josh Hart from the New York Knicks, an OG Anunoby, just like a solid role player a solid two-way player that they can get to add into their lineup. They don't need a top guy to come with De'Aaron Fox or Wembanyama. Let that core group kind of grow, as they're extremely young at the moment. But getting a seasoned veteran like a Josh Hart, a Jeremy Grant maybe from the Portland Trail Blazers, a Tim Hardaway Jr. I'm trying to think of anybody else off the top of my head. Maybe even a Karis LeVert, a shooting guard, with just anybody with some veteran experience, and Al Horford potentially, just somebody that can anchor that offense, anchor that locker room, and just be a voice to the young guys and help them grow and prosper into that team overall. That was my first thing. Second thing is it's not too much of speculation. We did see Greg Popovich with a little bit of a health scare earlier this season that's put him out indefinitely as the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. It's not announced yet, but there is potential that he could be out, as he could retire after this season, just overall because of his health. He's been coaching in the NBA for two decades plus at this point. He's probably the longest standing, and he's by far the longest standing NBA coach in the NBA at the moment. But if he does end up retiring, there was a guy that was just fired out of Denver that could be an unbelievable replacement. Coaching with Nikola Jokic, he could be phenomenally coached. He could be exactly the guy you want to coach Victor Wembanyama as he continues to grow as an NBA player, as well as Cooper Flagg. Two tall talents, two big men, power forwards that can play the position very well. Cooper Flagg that can stretch the floor extremely well. I think Mike Malone would be a perfect fit in San Antonio, and really just be a voice in the locker room. Give them the similar aspect, like I said, with the off-season acquisition, with if they can get a seasoned veteran in that locker room. Mike Malone can be a similar voice to that, just being a voice, being able to guide the young players, and just coach them up. As obviously Mike Malone winning a championship with the Denver Nuggets 2 years ago, I personally think he would just be a unbelievable fit with that team if he decides to go there, if the San Antonio Spurs decide to pursue and sign him. But I'm going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Denver Nuggets. Funny enough, they've had their first game since the Mike Malone firing, taking down the Sacramento Kings 124-116. When we come back, we're going to take a look at that game and how the Denver Nuggets and Kings overall, both teams in the play-in and playoff at the moment, how they stack up. When we come back, we're going to take a look at all of that. Be right back, guys.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right back into it. Last night was the first game for the Denver Nuggets without their longtime 10-year head coach, Mike Malone. Mike Malone obviously being dismissed as head coach of the Denver Nuggets on Tuesday now. Yep. Along with their GM, I believe Chris Booth. I'm trying to remember his first name. I apologize. But overall, the Denver Nuggets having their first game, taking down the Sacramento Kings 124-116 last night. Denver honestly played phenomenal last night, I'd say. They really spread the ball around. 4 players getting into 20-plus points. Christian Braun leading the team with 25. Nikola Jokic with a 20-point triple-double. Michael Porter Jr. with 21 points. And a player that continues to be an X factor for this team time and time again, in Aaron Gordon, finishing with 21 points. Aaron Gordon is the definition of an X factor, a player that can shoot, with Nikola Jokic being able to take some of the pressure off Jokic on the offensive glass, being able to stretch the floor, being able to shoot the three. The only player I can really compare to him is, he's much shorter and he's much bigger, but he's very similar to the way Kristaps Porzingis plays in Boston, with how Porzingis stretches the floor, is able to shoot the three, and overall being able to just take over games. That's how Aaron Gordon plays in a similar fashion, and he's critical. He's played critical time and time again this season. But the Nuggets snapping a 4-game losing streak last night with their win. Major props to Daniel Adelman in his first game as interim head coach of the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, on Tuesday we saw, like I said, Mike Malone being fired, and as well as the GM for the Denver Nuggets being released. I don't want to get too deep into the logistics about what happened, but long story short, pretty much it was a scheming issue. Mike Malone wanted to kind of utilize the veterans of the team more, while the GM wanted to utilize, and the ownerships wanted to use the young talent more often, more of the Christian Brauns, the Michael Porter Jr.'s, the Jalen Pickett's of the world. I was about to say Kenny Pickett. It's not football. But overall, that's been the one thing that I noticed last night. David Adelman really playing a crucial role in using the young talent in last night's game. Like I said, Christian Braun leading the team in scoring. Jalen Pickett finishing with 18 points, using him much more down the stretch. Versus when Mike Malone was coaching, he would use a Russell Westbrook, so to speak, much more, or a Michael Porter Jr. The team is just expanding their view a little bit more, and there's gains and there's goods and there's pros and cons with it, I'd say. Just starting with the good, it kind of just helps overall. It helps these young guys speed up their experience, give them more experience, speed up their improvement and growth in the NBA. And on the other side, of course, the veterans really getting hit hard. Russell Westbrook, obviously on the tail end of his career, he's had a lot of in-game experience. Mike Malone just using that to his advantage instead of taking the gamble of using the young talent. But overall, like I said, this has just been a team that's been through it all season long. They had a 4-game losing streak prior to the Mike Malone firing. In that span as well was the game against the Minnesota Timberwolves when Russell Westbrook missed a layup and ensuing right after that, fouled a 3-point shooter, putting the Minnesota Timberwolves on the line in double overtime to win the game. I don't want to say that had something to do with what happened with the final decision in Denver, but I can't say that it helped Mike Malone's case in the fact that Mike Malone and the ownership just didn't have similar and agreeing mindsets and schemes overall. That was the biggest thing in Denver, and that clash between the older players and the younger players is what ended up really spelling his demise, or his tenure, ending his tenure in Denver. Like I said, overall, this team I personally thought before the firing happened, I personally still had the Denver Nuggets still being incredibly competitive in the Western Conference. I thought they were a team that didn't really care too much about their seeding come playoff time. As long as they got in, they didn't care. You see it with Jamal Murray getting some extra rest at the moment. He's been out of the lineup for the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. That has a lot to do with that 4-game losing streak as well. But yeah, this is the first time we've seen the Denver Nuggets without Mike Malone as their head coach, and it's going to be interesting to see how this team moves forward. We saw Nikola Jokic in the timeout helping scheme up plays, and it's going to be interesting to see how the veterans, how Jokic feels about everything, how he ends up responding come this summer. There have been a little bit of rumors. I'm not going to get in too crazy about that. I'm not going to get into that. But, yeah, that's the state of the Denver Nuggets at the moment. They have a whole lot to play for. Of course, they won a championship 2 years ago. Last year, dropping 2 in a row to the Minnesota Timberwolves after having a 3-2 lead in the series, losing Game 7 back home in Denver. It was just, I keep saying this word, but it was just overall unfortunate for the Denver Nuggets. And we all know that a healthy Nikola Jokic and a healthy Jamal Murray are a top duo, not only in the Western Conference, but in the NBA as a whole. So if they can stay healthy, if Jamal Murray can come back healthy the way he was and play the way he was mid-season prior to getting hurt, I think this team can still go on a run. I think they still have the pieces. They still have the depth on their bench. Their defense is incredibly deep. They're still a formidable team in the Western Conference, with or without Mike Malone. It's just going to depend on if David Adelman's scheme works. If the young talent does not end up working out for this team, that could be a major thing in this game, in this season. Could be a lot of people would point the finger at that and say, why did you fire Mike Malone? What was the reason for it overall? But that's the state of the Denver Nuggets at the moment. I have been a little bit choppy with them, with a lot of the teams in the Western Conference. But coming up next, I kind of want to get into everything that I've missed out on. I want to update everything in the Western Conference, how everybody sits, and give a little bit of a prediction at what we could see come next week and come 2 weeks from now when these playoffs begin. Next week, of course, is when the play-in tournament begins, and the playoffs should start the following weekend. I'm gonna give a prediction on all of that, and we're gonna take a look at the updated Western Conference. I'm gonna take a short break, and when I come back, we're gonna take a look at all of that. Be right back, guys. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting right back into it here. We're going to take a look at the Wild Wild West, as I like to call it, the Western Conference. 4 days until the regular season is complete, and the stakes can't be higher for some of these teams. I'm just going to rattle off teams right off the bat. And the 1 through 3 seeds at the moment are completely locked in with the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Lakers. Nobody can move up. Nobody can move down. They're all clinched in those 3 spots. But from there, we have the Denver Nuggets and the Clippers tied at a record of 48-32 at the moment. They're 4 and 5 are going to be, those 2 teams are going to go down to the wire. The Grizzlies and the Warriors at 47-30. Grizzlies at 47-32. Warriors at 47-33. Warriors in the 7th seed is where the play-in tournament begins. Minnesota Timberwolves at 46-33, and then the Sacramento Kings and Mavericks at 9-10 with a 39-41 record for the Kings, and then 38-42 for the Mavericks. Everything is heating up here. 1 through 3, like I mentioned, is completely locked in, but 4 through 8 is completely live and in play. Anybody can move up and down. Teams trying to move out of the play-in tournament, move out of that 7 and 8 seed, trying to evade those 2 spots. Nuggets trying to hold on to that 4 seed with a tough schedule coming up. The Nuggets they probably have the toughest schedule remaining out of for the rest of these teams. They have to play the Grizzlies and the Rockets. Grizzlies tomorrow night. Clippers, of course, the hottest team in the Western Conference, like I mentioned earlier in the show. Kawhi Leonard, it's all going to come down to the health of Kawhi Leonard and the consistency of James Harden on the offensive end. If those 2 can continue to perform the way they have for the last month and a half, they're going to be extremely formidable come playoff time. But from there, we have the Grizzlies and the Warriors. Those 2 teams, I believe they still have to go head-to-head one last time before the close of the regular season. I was wrong. No, they don't. The Grizzlies face the Timberwolves, Nuggets, and Mavericks to close out the season. Those 3 games are all against playoff teams that are still fighting for their playoff lives. So they're still in the thick of it here, especially with a back-to-back with the Timberwolves and Nuggets tonight and tomorrow. That is going to be the story of the next 2 days, I believe, how those 2 games play out. If the Grizzlies lose both of those games, they could be the team that falls into that 8 spot. If they can split, they still have a chance to hang around between 5 and 7. If they can win both, of course, that would be best case scenario. They jump up there. I would pick them to probably jump up to that 2 seed or to the 4 seed and take that top spot. From there, the Golden State Warriors, like I mentioned, Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, they were the hottest team. They still are incredibly hot. Do not get me wrong. They're 20-5 with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry on the court together since the midseason trade. Obviously, sitting in the 11th seed, they held a 25-26 record prior to the trade, and now sitting at 47-33. This is why I say that loss last night was extremely, extremely crucial. Like, in the worst, it was devastating in a way, because every game is crucial down the stretch. They finish the season against the Trailblazers tomorrow night, and then the Clippers. The Clippers game is going to probably end up being one of the games that depend. The Clippers game is going to depend on where they're seated overall. Plain and simple. Clippers, obviously, like I mentioned, the hottest team. The Warriors trying to continue to get out of that play-in tournament, stay out of the play-in tournament, stay away from the Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I believe they're eyeing that 5 spot, really trying to host. They want a playoff series against the Nuggets. That's the team that they're looking at. That's the team that they want come playoff time. They're trying to avoid I think they're trying to avoid more of the Rockets side of things. We saw Steph Curry struggle against the defense that Ime Udoka schemed up for him. We saw him struggle we've seen him struggle against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then, of course, I personally don't, unless he does. Steph Curry doesn't really run away from anybody, but I don't think they want to see the Lakers in a first round matchup. If I'm the Warriors, I don't want to see the Lakers in a first round matchup. I want to see them in the second or possibly in the conference finals if that's possible, if I can. But yeah, like I mentioned, they want to look the matchup that they're favoring, that they're looking for, is against the Denver Nuggets at the moment. We'll see if that all transpires the way they're looking for it, but at the moment, that's how it's shaping out to be. And then, of course, the Timberwolves, they've been a very interesting team down the stretch here. Obviously the chemistry between Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle has been kind of hard to create all season long. It's just been very rocky for them. This is the best way to describe it. But coming down the stretch here, they've really started to figure it out. Obviously, Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards are very ball dominant, so that's probably or almost definitely playing a role in all of this. But down the stretch here, they've played exceptional, and they're one of the hottest teams as well in the Western Conference, I'd say. But yeah, they finish off their season in, I believe, like I mentioned, they play the Grizzlies. That'll be a must-see matchup. But they also have to play the Brooklyn Nets and the Utah Jazz. They probably have the easiest schedule out of the remaining teams that are in that 4-game tiebreak. Yeah, the state of the Timberwolves is just they have all the pieces that they need. They hold the cards. They can do it. With Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle playing the way they have, with Rudy Gobert on the interior playing like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate again, with Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming off the bench as a key shooter off the bench. Naz Reid is still playing exceptional. They still have all the pieces that they need to go on another deep playoff run, and they're figuring it out. They're putting the pieces together when it matters most before the playoffs right now. So if they can continue that stretch, I think they can be extremely formidable come playoff time. And my prediction at the moment, I think they're going to end up in that 6 seed spot and face the Los Angeles Lakers in a first-round matchup, which would be must-see TV if they face the Lakers. Anthony Edwards versus LeBron James or Luka Dončić. LeBron James versus Julius Randle. Rudy Gobert would be an absolute presence in the paint in that series. That would be an unbelievable matchup overall, I'd say, if the Lakers took on the Timberwolves in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. And then from there, I mentioned the Sacramento Kings and Dallas Mavericks. Those two teams really they can't really move up. They're sitting at 38 wins or 39 wins between the two. Obviously, the 8 seed is 46 wins. They're head and shoulders above the play-in tournament seeds. But still, whoever wins, like I mentioned earlier in the show, whoever gets the 9 seed, I believe will win that 9-10 matchup. If the Kings host the Mavericks, I'm personally picking the Kings to win that matchup. And then vice versa, if the Mavericks host the Sacramento Kings. Either way, I personally think whoever wins that matchup will most likely lose to the 7-8 seed winner. I just think that's how head and shoulders the 3 through 8 seeds are over the 9 and 10. And then, like I mentioned, the Thunder and the Houston Rockets at those top 2 seeds. One thing that you guys might not know about, the Houston Rockets have been one of the best teams in the NBA. They've been a sleeper all season long. They have not been one of those teams that have been very ball dominant with a single player. They're just exceptionally well coached under Ime Udoka. Jalen Green is playing. He's growing in front of our very eyes as a number one threat on the offensive end. Jabari Smith Jr. is still playing exceptional. Alperen Sengun's playing exceptional at the center position. He should be in the improved player of the year conversation, I'd say. Most improved player of the year conversation, even though I personally wouldn't have given it to him over Austin Reeves. But Sengun has played phenomenal all year long, and he deserves all the credit in the world, averaging a double-double this season. And then, of course, there is the best player, if not the best player, most valuable player in Amen Thompson, a young, growing. You can play him as a power forward. You can play him as a small forward. He can play. He can defend all 5 positions on an NBA court. He's extremely valuable for this team, and I think his play down the stretch. They play the Lakers in a couple nights here. That game is going to be unbelievable, I'd say, if both teams play their guys. At the same time, both teams might rest their starters as their playoff positions are set in stone here with 4 days to go in the regular season, trying to avoid injuries, keep their guys healthy, give their guys extra rest before the playoffs begin next week. But overall, this is where we are sitting in the Western Conference. I didn't mention the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't really think I need to, holding the MVP candidate and arguably the unanimous MVP candidate in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's played, honest, there aren't words to describe how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has played. As some people will call him an ore farmer, but he's played unbelievably all year long. From shooting the ball from the mid-range, getting to the free throw line, getting his teammates, being a facilitator, getting this team a bucket when they need it, playing very Steph Curry-esque, being a spark for this offense. That's the one thing that I've noticed about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I didn't even get into his defensive side, being a incredible two-way player. The only player I would compare Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to is a Jason Tatum, and that's not in Jason Tatum being better than him. I think they're both neck and neck in terms of how valuable they are to their teams, and in terms of their style, they play very similarly. But with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, with Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, exceptionally well coached, holding the best record in the Western Conference, holding the number 1 seed, they host every playoff series they host every playoff series they're in. As long as they win and continue to move on, they host those playoff series as the number 1 seed. So the road goes through Oklahoma City. Will they go to the NBA Finals? I'm personally not picking them. I think there's a multitude of teams that can beat them. I think the Warriors could beat them. The Lakers, if they can figure out their offense, their third quarter struggles, their defensive struggles. I think the one thing that really can overlap both of those is the play of a Luka Dončić. If he can turn into that scorer that we saw in last year's playoffs, if he can continue to grow as a scorer, continue to grow as a facilitator with LeBron. LeBron will spark in the playoffs. We've seen it for the last 20 years with LeBron in the league. But overall, I think the Western Conference overall is head and shoulders above the Eastern Conference, and no matter who ends up playing each other in the Western Conference, I think every game will be must watch. I personally believe the Western Conference playoffs this year will be the best we've seen in years. I don't want to call it the best we've ever seen, but this is one of the best playoffs I personally have ever seen in not only the West, but in either conference. Obviously, the Eastern Conference has the top 2 seeds, and 3 through 8 has been a little bit of a struggle for those teams. But overall, like I mentioned, the Western Conference is just head and shoulders above everybody else, I'd say, in terms of not only talent, but play overall. But as always, I just want to thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. Seriously, it does make a difference more than you guys think. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again for another amazing show. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your days. This is Mehrob Fatemi, host of the GSMC